Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who walk alone. And sometimes they only have one leg to stand on, literally. For years, everyone in the city knew Victoria Hale. She was the brilliant, fearless CEO who had built a multi-million-dollar tech company from the tiny apartment where she once worked late into the night with nothing but a laptop and a dream. She was powerful. She was respected. She was incredibly disciplined. But what most people didn't know was that behind her confidence was a woman who ate lunch alone, spent holidays alone, and returned every night to an empty penthouse. No one knew how lonely success could feel. And no one could have guessed that everything would change on a rainy evening because of a single father, a little girl, and one simple act of kindness. Before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories that remind us that kindness still matters. Victoria Hale had spent most of her life hearing the same discouraging words. People like you can't lead. People like you won't be taken seriously. People like you shouldn't dream so big. People like you. Those words followed her for years. They were aimed at a woman who had lost her right leg in a childhood car accident. A woman who wore a prosthetic leg and refused to hide it. A woman who refused to let anyone decide what she could or couldn't accomplish. She pushed past the doubt. She ignored the whispers. She rose above the pity. And she succeeded. But rising above often meant rising alone. Her employees respected her. Investors admired her. Business magazines praised her achievements. Yet when the workday ended, there was no one waiting for her. No close friends. No family dinners. No one who saw her as anything other than a successful CEO or a woman with a disability. Deep down, she wished someone would simply see her as Victoria. Then fate quietly stepped in. One cold Thursday evening, rain pounded against the glass walls of her office building. Most employees had already gone home. Victoria finally shut down her computer and headed toward the elevator, only to discover it wasn't working properly. With a tired sigh, she chose the stairs. Carefully, step by step, she made her way down. Her prosthetic leg made long staircases difficult, especially after exhausting days. By the time she reached the lobby, thunder echoed across the sky and rain poured like a waterfall outside. She checked her phone. Her driver was off for the evening. The rideshare app showed a 30-minute wait. Victoria stared at the storm and prepared herself for a long, uncomfortable trip home. Then she heard a small voice nearby. "Daddy, that lady doesn't have an umbrella. Can we help her?" Victoria turned. Standing near the entrance was a man holding a large umbrella, and a little girl with bright eyes and an even brighter smile. The man offered an apologetic smile. "Sorry," he said. "She notices everything." The little girl tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, we have an extra umbrella in the car. We can give it to her." Victoria hesitated. People rarely approached her. Most simply stared. Some admired her. Others pitied her. But kindness from a stranger? That was rare. The man stepped forward. "It's really no trouble. We'd be happy to help." Victoria smiled politely. "I don't actually have a car tonight. I'm waiting for a ride." The little girl's eyes widened. "Then Daddy can drive you." The man laughed nervously. "If you're comfortable with it, I'd be happy to give you a ride. The storm doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon." For a moment, Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Warmth. Not physical warmth. Human warmth. She nodded. "Thank you. I'd appreciate that." And just like that, the CEO everyone believed needed no one accepted a simple act of kindness from a complete stranger. The man's name was Daniel Carter. He was a single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. He had just finished a cleaning shift in the same building. What surprised Victoria most was that Daniel had no idea who she was. He didn't follow business news. He didn't watch television. His phone was old and rarely used for anything beyond calls and messages. To Daniel and Lily, she wasn't a famous CEO. She was simply a woman caught in the rain. During the drive, Lily filled the car with questions. "What happened to your leg? Does it hurt? Can you run fast? My friend's cousin has one too, and he runs super fast." Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh that softened her eyes and relaxed the tension she carried every day. She told Lily about the accident. About learning to walk again. About falling, getting back up, and refusing to give up. Lily listened with complete fascination. To her, Victoria wasn't different. She was a superhero. Daniel watched quietly from the driver's seat. For the first time, he saw past the intimidating image people often associated with successful executives. Around Lily, Victoria seemed gentle, patient, and genuine. Most adults brushed off children's endless questions. Victoria answered everyone. When they arrived at her building, she reached for her purse. But Daniel shook his head. "Ma'am, kindness doesn't need a price tag." Victoria froze for a second. No one had ever said those words to her before. Somewhere along the way, she had become so accustomed to transactions, negotiations, and expectations that she had forgotten what genuine kindness felt like. Before she stepped out of the car, Lily pressed something into her hand. It was a pink rubber bracelet. The words on it read, "Be brave." Lily grinned. "You're already brave. But just in case you forget." That night, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about them. Not because she was sad, because she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Connection. The next morning, instead of using her private entrance, she walked through the main lobby. She hoped to see Daniel. He wasn't there. Curious, she asked around and learned something that deeply moved her. Daniel wasn't only a cleaner. He worked multiple jobs throughout the building. Maintenance, janitorial work, delivery support, anything he could do to provide for Lily. And despite carrying such a heavy burden, he never complained. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed more often. Sometimes they exchanged a simple wave. Sometimes they stopped to talk. And whenever Lily saw Victoria, she ran toward her with excitement. Slowly, Victoria began eating lunch in the lobby instead of hiding in her office. Slowly, Daniel became more comfortable talking to her. And slowly, two very different lives began to intertwine. Victoria learned about Daniel's struggles, about losing his wife during childbirth, about raising Lily alone, about choosing gratitude over bitterness every single day. Daniel learned about Victoria's loneliness, the pressure of leadership, the constant expectations, and the hidden challenges of living life in the spotlight. One lived in a luxury penthouse. The other lived in a modest rental apartment. Yet kindness erased the distance between them. One Friday evening, Daniel found Victoria struggling with several heavy boxes. Without hesitation, he rushed over to help. This time she didn't argue. She didn't insist she could manage alone. Instead, she quietly said, "Thank you for seeing me." Daniel set the boxes down and looked directly at her. Not at her title. Not at her success. Not at her prosthetic leg. At her. "Everyone deserves to be seen," he said softly. "Including you." Those words touched a place in her heart that success never could. Weeks became months. Shared coffee turned into meaningful conversations. Meaningful conversations turned into genuine affection. Lily adored Victoria, and Victoria admired the kindness, strength, and humility Daniel carried every day. But perhaps the most important thing was this: Daniel never treated her like she was fragile. He never treated her like she was broken. He treated her like she was whole. For the first time in years, Victoria realized something important. Strength isn't always about standing alone. Sometimes true strength is allowing someone to stand beside you. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change the course of a life. In the end, Victoria discovered that even the strongest people need support. And Daniel discovered that kindness can build bridges between completely different worlds. So the next time you see someone standing alone, offer a smile. Offer a helping hand. Offer a moment of kindness. Because you never know whose life you might touch. And sometimes they may end up changing yours too. Be kind. It matters more than you think. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes in the power of kindness. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a small act of kindness that changed your day? Or even your life? Thank you for watching, and remember, a little kindness can go a long way. We'll see you in the next story.